You know, when Google announced Antigravity, it really felt like the future of software development had just shown up, like overnight. They promised us this tool that was so powerful it would completely change how we create things. We'd go from writing code line by line to just orchestrating these AI agents with an idea. But what happens when a dream like that slams right into a very, very messy reality?
All right, so what was the big idea here? Well, the whole platform was built around this concept they called vibe coding. I know, it sounds a little out there, right? But the idea itself is actually pretty profound. You just describe what you want, the feeling, the vibe of the app, and a whole swarm of AI agents does the heavy lifting. We're talking the ultimate goal, building with just natural language.
And this right here, this was the core promise straight from their launch video. You weren't a coder anymore, you see. You were an architect, a manager. Your job was to guide the vision, and the AI would handle all the tedious implementation. It was a massive, massive shift in how we think about building software.
So how was this incredible future supposed to actually work? Let's break down the features that had the entire developer community absolutely buzzing with excitement. And this is the key thing to understand. Antigravity wasn't just another chatbot that spits out code snippets. No, this was designed to be a full-fledged team. You'd have multiple agents working at the same time, and get this, it would produce verifiable artifacts like screen recordings of the AI testing its own app. This was all about building your trust in what these agents were actually doing. To make sense of all this raw power, users pretty quickly developed their own frameworks to streamline the whole process. The most popular one was called Flow. Simple, right? You'd frame the problem, give it the layout and design assets, orchestrate the agents while they worked, and finally release your creation to the world. It turned this incredibly complex tool into a simple, elegant process.
And to support that workflow, it offered two totally distinct ways to work. You had the playground, which was perfect for just throwing ideas at the wall, quick experiments you didn't need to save. But when you were ready to build something for real, you'd move over to a workspace, a full-on project ready to be deployed.
It all sounded perfect. A little too perfect, maybe? Because after that initial honeymoon phase, the glowing reviews started to disappear, and they were replaced by this wave of frustration. Users started calling their $20 a month subscription a paperweight. And then the reports started flooding in. That brilliant AI that once built flawless apps was now making these huge, fundamental errors. As this one user put it so well, the AI would break their code and then basically gaslight them with a perfectly confident but completely wrong explanation for what it just did.
And this quote, wow, it just perfectly illustrates the problem, doesn't it? Developers went from being managers of agents to being full-time babysitters. They were spending more time cleaning up the AI's messes than they would have spent just writing the code themselves from scratch.
This sudden, drastic drop in quality led to a theory that started spreading like wildfire through the community. They called it the lobotomy effect. The speculation was that Google, probably struggling with the immense cost, had secretly swapped out the powerful Gemini 3 Pro model for a cheaper, dumber version, and didn't tell anybody.
And the complaints weren't vague either. They were super specific and consistent. The AI would literally forget what it was working on just moments before. It was inventing fake code libraries out of thin air. It would choke on large projects. And, to add insult to injury, there was a bug that was locking paying customers into the free plan, making the tool totally useless.
So what on earth was actually happening here? Was this really some kind of malicious bait and switch by Google? Or were there deeper, more technical forces at play that were causing this huge gap between the amazing initial promise and the awful later performance?
Well, the most probable explanation isn't a big conspiracy. It's something far more common in the world of AI: compute throttling. Antigravity may have simply become a victim of its own success. The demand for that super powerful Gemini 3 Pro model likely just blew past what Google's servers could handle.
And to handle that massive load, they probably resorted to something called aggressive quantization. Now, think of it like this. It's like compressing a really high-resolution photo. Yeah, the file gets smaller and it's easier to send, but you lose some of that fine detail. The image gets a little blurry. For an AI, that blurriness translates to a loss of nuance, a loss of reasoning ability, and ultimately a loss of accuracy in the code it writes.
So what's the big takeaway here? This whole story isn't just about anti-gravity. It's really a case study in the growing pains of a whole new era of software development, and it shines a big spotlight on the critical trade-offs that we're all facing right now.
When you zoom out and look at the competitor landscape, that trade-off becomes crystal clear. Antigravity gives you these incredible features for a super affordable price, but it suffers from instability. Then you have more reliable competitors like Cursor, but they come with a much higher price tag or really strict usage limits. Turns out, there's no free lunch.
And this is the crucial point. This whole controversy has poured gasoline on a much larger conversation. A conversation around a term you are going to be hearing a lot more: AI slop. It's this growing backlash against the flood of low-quality AI-generated code that's super easy to create, but becomes a total nightmare to fix or maintain down the line.
And this really highlights the fragility of that whole vibe coding dream. I mean, these tools are amazing for building version 1 of an app. But what happens a month later when you need to fix a bug and the AI that wrote the code has been updated and, lobotomized? This isn't about replacing developers anymore, it's about redefining their job. The new critical skill is knowing how to expertly guide, debug, and maintain what these powerful but very flawed agents create.
So the story of anti-gravity leaves us with this huge critical question. Is vibe coding truly the next leap forward for development, or are we, in our mad rush to build faster and faster, just creating a new, more hidden kind of technical debt for our future selves? Maybe the future isn't about letting the AI take the wheel, but about us becoming better drivers. And the answer to that, well, it seems like it's anything but simple.